Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe. Today I'll be educating you about the great house of Ergot, the founding house of the Empire of Ergoth. The house was founded by Akil the First, the great barbarian chieftain who ended up founding the entire empire. He later died under questionable circumstances in 2595 pre-cataclysm. For more information about him, do check out our Great Men of Krynn podcast, first episode, to learn more about Akil the First. Akil the Second, the son of the great warlord Akil Ergot and the second emperor of Ergoth. He went on to continue building the great imperial road known as Akil's Path, but it was never completed in his lifetime. He would war with a great many tribes of the Great Green, and even in his old age, he prepared for a great campaign against his lifelong enemies, the Wakshu tribe. However, he died just in front of the northern gates of Daltagoth, which was renamed the Dermount Portal after his birth name. Ergothus was the third emperor, and he would die in 2572. He was emperor for just 3 years and was grandson of Akil Ergot. He was known to be a wise tactician and strategist who pretty much redesigned the entire palace of Daltagoth and rebuilt it. It was said, the palace intentionally built so that no corridor led into any room, so as to confuse invaders and enemies of the throne. This is obviously a fallacy, but it goes to show how thoroughly he planned his palace and how large it was upon completion. Akil the Third, he would reign from 2572 to 2566. Now, he completed the road called Akil's Path, but it was at the cost of many lives as he enslaved thousands to build it. And it's believed that a great many of his enemies gathered together in the palace and eventually ended up murdering him and replaced him with the more prominent and popular in favor of Mordirin Akil. Mordirin, while a descendant of Akil Ergot, is not, however, of the same dynasty, and he was succeeded by his wife, Kinera. It may be a distaff line, but I figure I might as well follow it and the Dermount family as they carry on the legacy of the Ergot house and are direct descendants of Akil. Mordirin would reign from 2566 to 2557. He was, however, in the end deposed and confined, and after him, his wife ruled, until she herself was deposed and imprisoned in 2541 by her son Ergothus II. Ergothus II was the emperor of Ergoth from 2541 to 2530. He ascended to the throne after his father was confined and after he had his mother similarly put aside. He soon became extremely popular with his people and was distinguished for instituting the rule that any soldier of the Great Horde, that is to say the national army, that served the throne loyally and long, would be granted their own tract of land by the emperor himself. This was a pretty far-sighted policy and secured the loyalty of the army. Now, Ergothus II, though, was succeeded by Pakin Zan, who, while he married a member of the Ergot family, was not of the Ergot line, so I'm not going to get into any of those emperors. But needless to say, there was a lot of conflict between the Ergot and Pakin dynasties. So we're going to be skipping the next two emperors and jumping straight to Akil Dermount, a fearsome warlord and the eldest son of Ergothus II. In 2480, he wrested the imperial throne from the Pakin dynasty and restored the Ergot line, which is now also called sometimes the Dermount line, to the throne. Now, he was a pretty bad ruler who basically declared that any Ergothian warlord who was to lose, his life was forfeit if his horde was ever defeated in battle. So, obviously not a nice guy. He was succeeded by his younger brother, Akil Dermount II, or yeah, we're starting to get a lot of Akils. Akil the Fifth here, or Akil Dermount the Second, is noted for basically ending up deposed by the Pakin dynasty, and that's about it. As for Akil Dermount the Third, he would become known as Akil's successor. He was popular amongst his troops, but he was often surrounded by private magicians and was very superstitious. He had two sons. Pakin II was said to be the conciliator who he apparently wanted to reconcile with the Pacan dynasty. This is why, though he was an Ergot, he decided to take up the name Pacan II when he came to the throne. However, he was still assassinated by followers of the Pacan dynasty, who thought this was an insult, rather than him trying to reconcile. Pacan III, who was the younger brother of Pacan II, became known as the Avenger. And no, he did not fight with, say, Captain America or Spider-Man or Iron Man. He was instead a very vengeful man and responded to the assassination of his beloved brother with a lot of massacres of the rival Pacan family. He would also forge an alliance with the Kender King of Halo, and this would have a lot of positive effects for Ergoth. He ended up succeeding his brother in 2421 and died in 2401, and was succeeded by his son Akal IV, whom was originally called Prince Amaltar. Amaltar succeeded in 2401, but did not reign for very long, and he would perish in the same year that he succeeded to the throne, and was followed by Prince Nazarim, who took up the name Akal V. Technically he's Akal VII, but as the family had not counted the Akal Dermounts as Akals, we're gonna, just for now, for ease of comprehension, go with that. And he apparently hated commoners and the peasantry. He was known for having quite the temper. He packed the imperial court with his favorites until he had complete control of the empire. But he ended up passing away in 2396, and was succeeded by his son Dalar Akal, who was a baby upon succession and disappeared a few years later in 2391. The next member of the Ergot family to claim the throne was during the Successors War, and he was called Akal VI, and he's also known as Akal the Unlucky. Apparently, he was the most revered of all the Ergot emperors, and he would reign from 2288 to 2240. And his reign was apparently very peaceful and uneventful, apparently brought the war between the various successors to an end. And he was succeeded by his son, Akal VII. Akal VII would reign until 2193, would become known as the mighty Akal Dermount. He was a much more active ruler than his predecessor. He reinstated Hilo as a vassal nation, something that had been done by Pacan III. There was increasing tension between the elves, dwarves, and humans during his reign. With that said, his empress never bore him any children, so he named the current head of the Quivalan family, a bloodline that was a cousin of his through the maternal line, and thus the Ergot family, begun by Akal Ergot, came to an end. And that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed this quiet little video. The next video will be about the city of Palinthos and its history. If you enjoyed this video and look forward to the next one, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, like your Huma trying to put an end to Takesis with the Dragonlance.